What is going on, everybody? Jimmo back again, and today we've got a little project we're going to be working on, but first I'm going to practice my skills in VR space on this little game that I've been developing, some virtual painting. So I need a lot more time into this thing, as with anything else, but this is a very time-consuming game development. And I'll actually show you, I have a few other games. So at the end of this video, I will show you some of the other games you can check out. But this one will hopefully be on Steam soon. And if you haven't used any VR stuff, it is really cool. And yeah, you can create some cool stuff. So this game's not out yet. So when it is available, I'll make sure you are aware. Now, I want to talk about today's project. So my kid's there on the left, Taylor, Cass on the right. Taylor, my son, who loves all sports, so baseball, he plays rep baseball, rep hockey, so all year long we're at the diamonds and at the rinks having a lot of fun. And you know, anytime I get the chance, whether it's to be helping out as a coach or any volunteer position that's going to make their season a little bit better, I tend to try to do that. And that was the case this year, based on what they had currently, which was this cool helmet. You know, kudos for the paint job, but you know, there were some issues with it. A little bit appealing. I thought we could jazz it up a little bit. So it's awarded to players to show recognition for various things, efforts, achievements, you know, dedication, and sometimes to parents for their hard work around the bases, setting up the diamond and making them nice to play on. So starting with this white helmet, we're going to clean it thoroughly and then scuff it down with a sanding paste and a gray pad, then apply some adhesion promoter, and then hit it with some color. So we're going to start off here with some silver base coat, and on this job I had some extra Diamond kicking around, which was handy. I like to use the nice high VOC stuff whenever you can, and I actually had some blue Charisma candy dye as well. So we're going to put a few coats over that until we get it the shade of blue that we wanted. So there's quite a few steps that went into this job, and you know, a lot of time. So you'll see. We'll get to that. Hopefully this video doesn't run nearly that long, but anyhow. So once we get it to the shade of blue that we want, we're going to throw on some clear and let it dry really well, so we have a nice hard cured surface to put our artwork over top of. So once it dries, it looks a little something like this. You can see that the dye is transparent, so that blue is still allowing all of that metal to reflect back through it and gives off a cool little sparkling look. So when you get in the sun, it can really pop. So the next thing I did, I came up with some design stuff, and they had a custom logo they wanted to use on it. And I did the only logical thing that I could think of, which was go buy, you know, a $300 decal cutter and then $100 or so worth of this vinyl stuff to cut out and apply on top of it, because you know, when it comes to freehand stuff, I'm you know, not the sharpest in town with it. So this did save me quite a bit of aggravation, and it's been actually handy for a lot of other things. So it's pretty neat. But getting used to things, I had cuts that looked something like this, and yeah, so it took some dialing in before I could actually figure it out and get my cuts coming out and figure out which types of vinyl were going to work best for transferring designs over. But once I got that dialed in, it was pretty cool. So the next thing we did here was applied some paint, and then I decided I didn't like the colors, and I ended up scrapping this design and starting over again, which sometimes happens, at least for me anyway. Just didn't come together the way that I wanted it to. So, you know, with custom painting, there's absolutely no rules, and I like that kind of change of pace. It definitely requires some patience. And actually looking back at some of this footage, I still think I could have went a little bit lighter with the colors. So, yeah, we're going to just get through this, wasting a little bit more time. Yeah, that looks like it's a little bit wetter than it should be. I can't remember exactly if there was any creep on that one or not, but anyway, we want to go light coats here. We decided to go with the white on the front and hard 65, so that's 65 feet between first and home, so their run down to first base has to be hard. So yeah, that's at their age level, just to clarify things. The next thing we're going to do is put on some silver over top of these baseball players on the side. And we're going to do a similar thing with some candy. So we're going to use some different colored candies over each ball player on the side to make things pop out and look cool. Now once we get everything all dry, here comes the fun part when you get to unmask everything and see if things all came together the way that you hoped they would. So we fortunately did not have any creep here. You can see everything came up really smooth and no paint in any places where we didn't want it. That's generally what I mean when I say creep. Now, I did cheat here a little bit. I can't remember exactly what it was, but for some reason I decided to go with the decals here, some stickers for the lettering at the top and the bottom. Probably because I have a tough time with letters, and I said, okay, I've screwed around with this enough. We're just going to get some stickers and call it a day. And then we're going to whack on some more clear coat. And in this case, the first coat of clear that went on had some pearl in it as well, like an effect pearl to make it shimmer and sparkle in different ways. So, and then we let it dry, sand it down, put on a few more coats of clear. I don't know how many were on this in total, probably at least 5 or 6. And then we've got this. Now that shimmering look when you move it all around, that it's like a teal effect pearl that I believe was used in this one here for the most part. That's the effect pearl in the clear. So that looks pretty cool, but I think we can do a little better because this was just the prototype. So now we're going to get on to the real helmet. So to start this guy off, we're going to put a metal flake down. So this is a red metal flake that we're going to use over the entire thing over top of a black base coat. Now, I definitely learned a thing or two about the right and wrong ways to apply a metal flake. And maybe we'll talk about that more another day, but I'll probably find someone a little bit more qualified to bring something to that. But since I didn't actually have a proper metal flake gun, we ended up improvising with an AccuSpray and some PPS. It got the job done. It probably went through more flake than it should have, but it still looked the same and looked pretty cool. I'll show you what it actually looks like when it goes down properly at the end here. Here you can see we had to bury it on. You got to put like 4 or 5 coats of clear because you're going to need to sand it all back down to bury all of that flake, because they're big flakes of metal that will be sticking out of the clear otherwise. So once that dries, we ended up sanding it down. I don't have a ton of footage to go over to show you every step, but we did a similar thing, cut out our decals. This was a much more simple design. We've got some baseball stitches to go on the contours, Whippy and Chiefs on each side with their W on the front, and then we just applied some silver base coat, cleared it a whole bunch more times, sanded down and cleared it again, and here's what we've got. Now I think they found it to be a bit of a step up, but beauty's in the eye of the beholder, so I don't really know for sure. We know it's subjective. We'll leave it at that. But let's have a quick look at the flaking job that I had Keegan do on one of the failed prototype helmets. So what happened here was I did an adhesion test on it. I wasn't happy with how well it stuck to the plastic because, like I say, this is a very difficult plastic to paint. So I ended up taking it right off and starting over. So that one definitely would have had some potential. That looks pretty cool, but unfortunately that one didn't come together the way it was planned, but maybe next year we'll have something. Now, let's make good on that promise. I was going to talk about some of the video game projects I've had on the go. Okay, so back to the VR painting game that I've come up with here. So I've been kind of working to make it more realistic, and some of the things I've done since the last time I was talking about it was I added in some mechanisms to make it more realistic. So we've got the airbrush here, and the further you pull it away, the bigger your fan's going to be. So it's going to behave more like a gun or airbrush, whatever you're using would act like. And it's going to have trigger sensitivity. Well, it does have trigger sensitivity. So based on how far down you pull the trigger, it's going to apply more or less material. So it's behaving more realistic. I'm still maybe not 100% sold on how practical it's going to be for maybe teaching blending. It would need a considerable financial commitment to really get a team together to get something really useful, but I can come up with some basic things that you can either doodle and play around like this, or you just want to get that muscle memory going with your with a paint gun. So it does transfer over pretty well for muscle memory, just to kind of practice what it would feel like spraying. It's obviously no substitute for the real thing, but you can have some fun. You can doodle around. Here we've got to sign our project here. Jimmo. That's my name. So yeah, I'm gonna try and get a test release on Steam VR, Steam the game website at some point, so you can get it through them. But for now, yeah, I'm just basically playing around, and yeah, we've got a few little elements in the game. I'm gonna try and focus more on painting. We've got the camera here, so you can take a picture and save it out after. That'll be part of what I want to do with this. But that's this project here. So let's move ahead. So this guy here, this was one of the first mobile games that I ever came out with, and it's called Enforcement Hockey. Well, the first version was called Enforcement, and basically the way it worked is you get a few cracks to line up a hockey player that's skating at you with his head down, and the more square you hit him, the further he's gonna fly, and physics takes over, and you can kind of direct him afterwards with your control, or with the phone, by using the accelerometer and tilting one way or the other, and you get points based on the distance, and there's some pickups and whatnot. So this game is actually in the Google Play Store right now. It's not on Apple, so it's under the name Lay 'Em Out Hockey, so you can find that, and it's actually, the new release is actually more of a cartoon version. There's only one level, it doesn't cost anything, but if you want to try it out and see what some of the things I've been up to, check it out. It's kind of cool. Then there's this guy here, which was made originally for an audience of 2 people. So the driver Ollie and Carter, the 2 kids that would always run around the hockey rink, and Ollie would get pretty excited anytime the Zamboni came out, but there was no Zamboni games to get excited over, so I came out with this, a personalized one, and I eventually released a version that went in the iStore and Google Play that didn't have their names in it, but the name Zamboni, they weren't happy about that, and eventually I had to remove that, so I might re-release this generic version just for the kids to have something to play around with, but that was that. Now this one here, I can't really remember what the purpose of the game was. I'm guessing you're a painter trying to find a work order, but the work order just isn't on the vehicle, so you don't know what you're doing. So instead, the only logical choice you have is to get in a Dodge Ram and do some donuts, and then jam it into the shop and get on your way. I don't know what this was. I was just kind of messing around, but I thought you guys would like this. So, bam! Look at that parking job. All right, so this one here was actually a somewhat successful indie release. So this is Bottle Flip VR, and I don't know if you have kids, you know what bottle flipping is. If you don't, basically it's when you take a water bottle with a little bit of liquid in it and try and flip it over and have it land on the bottom, or if it lands on the top, then that's called capping it. So basically you're firing some water bottles around and trying to make either some cool long trick shots where you get special bonuses, or you cap it, you get some extra, oh look at that, furthest cap. So this one's actually, it's available on Steam as well. It's for the Oculus Rift or the HTC Vive, so it has to be a VR device, and I'm sure there'll be more coming out because this technology is kind of picking up steam rapidly. So there's 4 levels in this. I won't go through all of them. If you want to look it up, there'll be links for all this stuff in the description. So all right, let's move on to the next one. So this one here, I was just kind of trying to teach my daughter some of the concepts of computer programming, and we came up with this game, The Adventures of Garbage Girl. So this has not been released. I haven't really gone too far with it, but the concept. We did some cutscenes that we had acted out. I don't know where they are off the top of my head, but yeah, they had some cool opening scenes and some dialogue. But yeah, the premise was going to be some sort of a garbage vigilante empire. So you need people to stop recycling, so you have more garbage, so you make more money, and of course there's a lot of people to kill along the way. I know it's a little bit dark, but I thought it was a cool idea, and there might have been something there. Look at the graphics, nice graphics on this. So using the Unity game engine, for anybody who might be asking or wondering, that is sort of into this stuff. So that's the adventures of Garbage Girl. Maybe one day, maybe after I retire or something, I might get back around to this one. So let's move on to the next. So here is, that's my little guy again, Taylor there, the baseball nut. So you can kind of see what's going on. So he's got this makeshift baseball bat. It's got the sensor just taped on there. So it's a baseball game. This was, well, it's still in a very early development stage, but it's actually still a lot of fun just to play in its current state. So basically all that happens is when you hit the ball, it'll tell you how far it goes. If it goes over the fence, you get a little celebration, and it'll spawn a runner every time. But the logic is still, it needs a lot more coding to get it to be where I want it. But yeah, in its current state, it's actually a lot of fun. There's the fastball mode, and there's underhand. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So this one, which I think is the last one, is another sports thing. So we've got a VR hockey game that I've been working on, because one doesn't exist. You'd think one of the main studios would have put one out, and I've been playing around with it. I haven't got it quite right. It's just sort of ended up being more like Murder on Ice. So it's fun to go around and hit people with your stick, and but the physics in VR space, trying to control a puck, is a little bit beyond my capabilities at the moment anyway. So it's on Steam. You can actually find it there, Skills Hockey VR. But yeah, I mean, it's fun to watch, but it's not overly practical. So I might pick up on things again. This is one of the projects that goes in the corner, and hopefully we'll get back around to it at one point. But I want to focus more on getting some sweet videos on painting out there. So yeah, but these are things I do. Okay, so there is actually one more video game I might be putting a little bit more priority into. So we've got the Paint Escape, where basically the painter is asked to stay past 5, and he says no, he's got to make a mad dash for it and get out of the way. It's going to be a mobile game that will be launched. I'm going to customize it a little further and give it more of an industrial feel. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and anything else. So yeah, it's been fun, a lot of fun. So thanks if you made it this far. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the helmet and everything afterwards. And again, love to hear what you think. Thanks as always for watching, and we will see you next time.